I came from a working class background, and I ordinarily would not have been able to afford going to law school. But at that time, Pepsi-Cola had a national fellowship. And if you wrote an essay saying why you wanted to do what you wanted to do, be it graduate school or law school, and they picked a couple of winners, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. So that got me, that plus waiting on table got me through Yale Law School. When I got out, needless to say, people were not clamoring at your door if you were a woman at that particular time. But I was lucky enough, with the support of some of the male, there were no women on the faculty at Yale Law School at the time, with a couple of my male professors, to get a much coveted clerkship on the Second Circuit for Jerome Frank. Because actually in those days, the government, some of the government agencies were hiring women, but relatively no private law firms were doing so. So there was a new law firm which had just been set up a few years before, which had 9 lawyers in it, called Arnold, Fortas, and Porter. Thurman Arnold, Abe Fortas, and Paul Porter, in a firm which had 9 partners of great significance, all of whose names were well known, certainly in the legal field, and 2 associates, so you can imagine what that. But that too was a very interesting experience, and actually they were defending at the time, they were defending people who were brought before the loyalty oaths. Remember, this is the McCarthy era. After that, I co-authored the publication for the Conference on Bail and Criminal Justice, later for the OEO on the first Legal Services Conference, too, Law and Poverty. I did some other policy reports on drugs for the Ford Foundation. And then after that, I spent a couple of years in legal services as an actual storefront lawyer. I mean, we brought test cases in various areas in DC, and then I went from there into public interest law, where I was able to work again on a lot of relatively important, from our point of view, breakthrough cases, mostly dealing with things like the rights of mental health offenders, the conditions in juvenile reformatories and in juvenile institutions. From there, I went into the Carter Justice Department as the Assistant Attorney General for legislation. And from there, with the benevolent help of the Attorney General, was Griffin Bell, I got nominated and confirmed onto the DC Circuit, where I served for 20 years, the last 4.5 as the Chief Judge. From there, I left and spent a couple of years at the War Tribunal, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. That the ALI has, I believe, a sterling reputation as two things. One, a completely independent body. I can remember Herb Wessler always telling us about, especially during corporate governance sessions, you leave your clients at the door here. And I think that was true. Many of, many if not most of them did. So I think its reputation as being independent of political or even the professional interests of the people involved. But secondly, is the diversity of its membership. I mean, we had a lot of judges, but we had conservative judges, as well as liberal judges, and we had same thing for people from the state judiciary, so that nobody could look at that and say, oh, that's the ALI, it's a bunch of do-gooder liberals up there. No, it really had, eminent people on both sides.